Hello and welcome to Let's Talk with Matt and Johnny. In season 2, we'll be inviting influential and inspiring guests onto our show. And this week, we welcome Holly Snowdon from Holly's Healthy Kitchen to talk all things diets and nutrition. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and we hope you enjoy. Thank you. Take care. We're very excited to have you on board, Holly, for our first episode. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Good. Well, we'll see. We'll ask you that at the end as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll. So I've got a few questions, and I'm sure there's loads of people that will have other questions as well. And again, we'll put Holly's social media stuff on our post and everything as well. So obviously, if you've got any other questions, please fire them all across to Holly. But yeah, again, welcome. So my first question really is more around like fad diets and things. So you see a lot of diets and stuff out there, and you kind of understand what's good, what's not. You know, is there any out there that we should really avoid?
Well, as I was saying to Johnny quite recently, that I think that anything that's fad diet, anything that falls into that category is quite extreme, probably eliminates an entire food group, and is generally not sustainable. So if you can't see yourself doing said diet for the rest of your life, then I'd say that's a fad, arguably. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are so many out there. I'm sure you've got many off the top of your head, but I would argue that, again, Johnny and I have talked about this, the keto diet. I'd argue that is a fad diet.
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone can sustain that for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And then there's various juicing diets. Like there's probably a massive list of all the juicing diets. I'd probably say that the Cambridge diet is a bad diet. Yeah,
That's
many.
a horrible diet.
Yeah.
What is the Cambridge diet? What is it? I've not heard of this, so I don't know.
So I think I don't know like the ins and outs of it, but I'm pretty sure they have like a lot of meal replacement shakes, and they've got their own like Cambridge diet bars and like it's basically replacement meals and snacks and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Eating, like real food a lot of the time.
So it's a lot of things that they're replacing their meals with these calorie shakes to kind of, minimize their or kind of regulate their calorie intake, right?
Yeah, exactly. But
And
I feel
again,
like with bad diets, when you're kind of focused on hitting a certain amount of calories, or if you're kind of focused on only eating a certain amount of food, it makes you kind of obsess over it. So then your whole day is revolved around food, and therefore you eat less intuitively. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't want my whole day to revolve around what I can and can't eat. Like, yeah, it's just not a fun way of living, and to feel restricted or that certain foods are demonized or whatever. Whereas if you're eating more intuitively, and allowing yourself to have a bit of what you want every now and then, you don't go crazy when you like fall off the wagon or feel like a failure or anything like that. So I just don't think it's a healthy or sustainable way of living to be on a bad diet.
Like we spoke before, as soon as you stop the Cambridge diet, for example, and you start integrating whole foods, what happens?
You're going
Start
to put
putting
it on
weight again.
Yeah, exactly.
Your body's just regulated to these shakes.
Yeah.
So
true.
It's a load of rubbish, isn't it?
It's completely pointless. That sounds completely pointless.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a distributor. They haven't got no nutritional qualification or anything. All they want to do is make as much money as they can, and they sort of give them people the shakes, don't they, for like 6 weeks, and then just leave them to their own devices.
Yeah.
No, like,
And
it's not tailored.
your body will put the weight back on and more. I think there's like a stat, it's like 95% of diets they don't work, and then most of those people will put more weight on afterwards as well. So and well, that's the thing, the diet industry is a massive money machine, so of course they're gonna take advantage of people's vulnerabilities and be like, this is a magic fix, it'll make you live forever.
Exactly, that's just what I was just going to say, was actually this is more about like where it's almost like they have the customer wants a quick fix. They don't necessarily want to be spending hours down the gym. They don't want to be necessarily regulating their own calories or kind of calorie counting and stuff, which is obviously a lot of what a lot of people do. But again, it's they just want that quick fix, don't they? And sometimes these things sell them the dream, and they do it for a bit, they lose the weight, they feel good about losing the weight, and they go, oh great, I've done it now, and then that's it, and then they put the weight back on, and like you say, and more. So that kind of links into my next question as well, which is what does a balanced diet really look like? You know, so it's, again, we're talking about, there's obviously a lot of the things that go out in the media of like your 5 fruit veg, you know, all that kind of stuff, less salt, that type of stuff. So what does a balanced diet look like?
So I really think that the 80-20 rule, I don't know if you've heard of that, we probably have heard of that, is definitely a good one to apply. So it's basically 80% of the time eating pretty much really, really healthy, like whole foods, that kind of thing. And then 20% of the time just letting loose a little bit and having a bit of what you fancy, stuff that's not bad. I don't know, bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm a food Nazi. So yeah, I think it's just having a bit of everything, essentially.
A food what?
Nazi.
That's good though. But the thing is like that is the thing, is that there's so many people that actually are scared to make the change, or when they do make the change of thinking, actually I'm going to eat healthier, or I'm going to do whatever, they cut so many things out of their diet, or they go from one extreme to the other, where they eat and drink or whatever and do whatever they want, to an extreme of going, actually I'm just going to completely cut out anything that I like and just going to eat salad. And
exactly.
That's very, very low calorie, you know, intake. And that's where the kind of the extremes, and people get all the, you know, I feel awful, I've got these headaches and everything else. And like you say, really, you don't really need to do anything that extreme, you know?
No, exactly. Yeah, because as soon as you eliminate it, it'll make you want it more. Like years ago, before I studied nutrition, I did the whole like crazy diet thing. I experimented loads. I was very much immersed in the diet culture, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to hide Kit Kats in my bottom drawer, and I'd always end up going to that drawer and eating the Kit Kats. Whereas now I don't ban Kit Kats, so every now and then I'll have a bit if I want them, but because they're not banned, they don't taste as good as I thought they did. It was only because they were banned that I was like, oh my god, these are amazing. So there's a lot of psychological factors in it as well. But generally, in terms of a balanced diet, again, I was talking to Tony about this before, I think the Mediterranean diet, which is the one that's been the most researched, is the one to kind of aim for. So their diet is mostly plant-based, so they eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, a lot of whole grains, whole foods. There's very minimal processed foods. And then they eat a lot of like healthy fats, so lots of olive oils if they want to, and then they'll have like red meat once, maybe twice a week, oily fish twice a week, and maybe a bit of lean white meat as well, and then nuts and stuff like that. So it's just like all of those whole natural foods. Like if you're looking at food in the supermarket, if it's got a massive ingredients list, then it's generally going to be quite processed. So yeah, opting for the whole foods is definitely the way to go. And that's why they've got such long lifespans. So yeah, I think that. And then, yeah, like I said, having that chocolate every now and then, having that pizza every now and then.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
You got to treat yourself.
Sorry.
You've definitely got to treat yourself every now and then.
Yeah, definitely. I actually heard something the other day. I think they said it was something like a worth it moment. So they were saying that walking along the beach with your granddad with some chips, or eating birthday cake on a loved one's birthday, that's a worth it moment. But then binging a big pack of biscuits on your own on a Thursday night, or grabbing a 99p muffin from a service station, that's not a worth it moment. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. So you can treat yourself, but just, yeah, make it a worth it moment.
Good, yeah. Cool. And then, yeah, basically my next thing was really just going to say, like, it's kind of simple steps, and actually just saying that something like that is not necessarily, you know, it's not out of a lot of people's probably their natural diets, you know, that type of thing. It's not really making that drastic step. It's actually just going, do you know what, there's a lot of things, like you say, there's a lot of things that are processed, and if you take those kind of processed foods out of it, then generally you're going to be okay, aren't you? You're going to be, you want to try and stay away from anything that is, has got, like I say, all that processed things in there, or kind of preservatives. Where a lot of the time actually you can get some things that, and again, it's a lot of the time you don't have to just eat it because it's got a shorter shelf life. You can freeze that stuff as well.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what I was going to say, actually, that in terms of like simple steps to eat better, frozen fruit and veg is your friend, and it often actually contains more nutrients than it does when it's fresh, bizarrely. And it's a cheap way to just get more of the good stuff in. So in every meal you can aim to just truck some of that in, and it really does make such a big difference. And I think I have learned from working with clients as well that completely overhauling their diet and like completely giving them something new and so far away from what they were eating before is just really unobtainable. So it's making really small steps at a time. So I'm thinking, like, at the moment, for some people, just making 3 small changes in their diet will make a big difference, as opposed to literally giving something that's so like daunting to them, I suppose. So yeah, but it is so confusing because there's so much mixed messaging, especially with these bad diets, and we do live in, I think they call it like an obesogenic environment. Like, we're bombarded with food marketing and billboards of food, like it's everywhere we look. So it is really difficult. So I think people need to be a bit kinder to themselves as well, because it is really difficult, especially if you're food orientated, because some people are naturally more drawn to food. Some people live to eat, and then some people eat to live. So yeah.
Very good.
Sanj, what would you say you do, mate? Do you live to eat, or?
I do love my food. I probably live to eat, to be fair. Even though I'm not massive at all. I'm like, I probably weigh the average, but yeah, no, I do love my food. Holly, I got a question, just because there's going to be probably a lot of people that listen to this that maybe are novices to diets or haven't tried anything, or maybe tried stuff but don't understand it.
Yeah.
This whole plant-based diet, could you explain some of the positives, some of the negatives, and essentially what it is?
Okay, so there's a bit of confusion about what plant-based actually means. So plant-based means a diet that is focused on plants, but it's not vegan. So vegan diets completely eliminate any kind of animal products. So no dairy, no eggs, no meat, no fish, nothing. Whereas plant-based is the majority of the food comes from plants. So that could be legumes like chickpeas and pulses, and then obviously vegetables and all those kind of things. So I really, really advocate a plant-based diet for a number of reasons. Like the Mediterranean diet, for example, that is plant-based predominantly. And as I've said, they have a much longer life expectancy than many other parts of the world. And yeah, it's just full of plant-based foods are full of vitamins and minerals that will make you feel good and keep you healthy.
Interesting, because have you guys seen that Netflix documentary, The Game Changers?
Oh.
Yeah.
Go on. Why did you just make that reaction?
Because, well, I know all documentaries are biased, but this one was just crazy biased.
Very, yeah.
I think it was just really unfairly portrayed. Like the studies that they did, they compared like a healthy vegan meal with like the most unhealthy meat-based meal, and it's just not realistic. Like, you can eat meat and be really healthy. So yeah, I just think that it was a really unfair documentary. But the thing is, people believe it, and they think that, oh well, Arnold Schwarzenegger's vegan, so that must mean that I've got to do it, So I mean, if it works for you, fine, but I just don't think it's for everyone. There's a backlash from that, but
That's the problem with social media as well. I know we spoke about this. A lot of people saying they're doing the keto diet works for them, but everyone's genetics are completely different. So it doesn't mean it's going to work for the person that's reading their Instagram posts, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like celebrities saying, oh, I've lost this amount of weight and I've used this diet, and everybody people jump on the wagon and think it's going to work for them. And when they're not seeing results, they've invested all this money.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of pressure on social media, isn't there? What would you say to people scrolling through social media and looking at all these like nutritional posts? What would you say to follow and not to follow, and what to look at and what not to look at?
It's hard to say, to be honest. I mean, it's really hard to say because I don't really know what people are saying, but if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. That's all I can say, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I guess if they say that this diet will work for everyone, this will promise X amount of weight loss, then again, that's probably a warning sign that it's not going to be good. Another diet that's become really, really popular in the last few years is, well, I guess it's kind of a diet or more like a way of eating, intermittent fasting. That's really, really gained some traction recently. And again, that can work really, really well for some people. Like my brother, for example, he intermittent fasts, and by that I mean he skips breakfast. So yeah, it works really well for him and it doesn't bother him. Whereas I know people that have forced themselves to do this and say not allowed themselves to eat till 12 p.m. and then literally counted down the minutes until 12 p.m. and then like nuts on the biscuit tin and like eat everything in sight. So
absolutely,
like if it works for you, go for it, but like don't force yourself to do it if it doesn't feel right.
There's always a lot of talk about people, obviously the majority of people wanting to lose weight for whatever reason. What about people, what would you say to people that actually want to put on weight in a healthy way?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely achievable. It's just looking at the foods that will instigate a healthy weight gain, for example. So yeah, so what are you asking?
No, just generally speaking, like for example, if you had a client who came to you, you've never worked with them before, and they said, well, look, I want to bulk up by so and so or whatever. How would you go about that?
Yeah, so again, it would depend on their circumstance, but I would obviously look from a nutritional point of view at the most healthy way they can do that, eating the most nutritious foods. And it's the same with weight loss. So with weight loss, I don't recommend people losing more than 1 to 2 pounds per week, because that will just put your body into a stress response and your body's like, what the hell, no, and then it will cling onto the fat. So I guess it's the same with weight gain. So I wouldn't say aim to put on 5 pounds a week. Like it would have to be a gradual process and done healthily and that kind of thing. So yeah,
fair enough.
And again, sometimes it ties in with the training side of things, and like a lot of people gauge their success on a diet due to their weight, don't they? They step on the scales and they're kind of all looking at it and going, and it's all, their gauge of success is only from a number that's on a scale. Where actually
that's a sad way of living.
I know, right? But the thing is so many people do it. I've been guilty of it in the past, and probably still am at some point. I think we all can be, put our hands up to that. But it's, I think there's a lot of people out there that are also thinking, I want to try and lose weight, but also I just want to feel like I've got a bit more energy. I feel a bit sluggish when I get to like mid-afternoon, or even kind of like you kind of, that's why they have these kind of like 11s, don't they? And kind of like you have like a snack, mid-morning snack, that type of thing, because there's people will get a lull. That's why they kind of, a lot of people feel like they need a coffee or whatever to kickstart their day or to kind of get them going. It's because they're kind of missing stuff within their diet, right?
Exactly, 100%. And my focus is always on health and the best nutritional content people can get. Whereas this is why I have such an issue with fad diets, because the focus isn't on health and feeling energized, it's on weight loss. And as you quite rightly said, like there's more to life than the number on the scales. So, and also I really don't advocate jumping on the scales anyway, because the weight literally fluctuates up to half a stone in a day, which is bonkers. So it can be really disheartening.
I'll never forget this experience. Probably about last year, probably. This client was gauging everything by the scales. It was driving me nuts. Probably I'm not seeing change, blah, 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 blah. So do you know what I did? Went upstairs, got the scales and threw them in the dustbin.
Did you?
See ya.
And to this, and do you know what? To this day, she still trains with me, and to this day, her mindset has changed. She doesn't
That's
rely on a number
amazing.
on the scales. That's the
Yeah.
only way. It was brutal. It was either going to go one way. It was either going to be like, can't believe I just threw my scales in the bin.
Yeah.
Or she was fuming. It's just like, do you know what? I feel so much better for it because I'm not relying on a number. And
Exactly. And also, if you're a woman, your hormones are all over the place. So if it's the time of month, then your weight's going to go up. And
they were decent scales as well, to be fair. I think she paid quite a bit.
You went and took them out of the bin, didn't you? And took them home.
Sold them on Amazon, mate.
That's so funny. But yeah, I think Joe Wicks calls it the sad step, and I think that's an accurate label for it, to be honest. It's just not a happy thing.
No, but it's mad, isn't it? That literally you've got to think that 90% of the population will be gauging their success off of that. You know, that they'll have scales in there, and that's the way that they can accurately measure it, you know, for themselves, and that's what they think is like the be all and end all, when actually realistically it's just thinking, how do I feel personally, how do I feel inside? It's a bit like all these podcasts that we've done about mental health. It's like there's a lot of external things that can cause these things to happen, but actually it's what's inside yourself and how you feel personally about these things, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And social media does not help. Like, I know that I'm guilty of comparing myself to people, and I'm sure that there's millions of people out there that do exactly the same. Like, if you see someone with a 6-pack and XYZ, you're like, oh shit, why don't I have that? So,
I think everyone does that, don't they? Like every single person on social media at some point will do that.
Yeah, so true. But a 6-pack does not equal health. So
it's very true, very true. And again, we spoke about this on our previous podcast of saying, actually, does the image, or what the kind of the peer pressure of actually having these images online and people feeling like they have to go to these extremes to be able to do it, and to be honest, the people that are actually are in those pictures have gone to extremes. Their diets are, very extreme. They have, they are very dehydrated. They train constantly on very low fuel. They feel like crap, you know, and people that have actually gone through that will testament to that, and fair play to them for doing it. But it is an extreme, and and it's not something for somebody who is doing a 9-to-5 job, who has kids, who's got this, who's it's not for everybody.
No, it's not. It doesn't equal happiness looking a certain way. So I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, and I had another one as well. I mean, one thing I see a lot of on social media, and also being previously in the fitness industry, and obviously Johnny will testament to this as well, is that macro counting, things like counting your proteins, your carbohydrates and your fats. Do you think, obviously things like apps like MyFitnessPal, or you can do it through Fitbit as well now, and all this kind of stuff, do you think that is a good way of tracking it, or do you feel like you said at the start, do you feel that kind of consumes people?
I think it can work for a small percentage of people. Say if you have a really, really healthy, good relationship with food, or if you have specific physique goals, I suppose, then potentially macro counting could be the way to go. But for the majority of the people and for the average Joe, I probably wouldn't recommend it, just because it doesn't take into consideration, again, like the micronutrients, so the vegetables and the vitamins and the minerals that you need. It just takes into consideration the proteins, fats and carbs. And also it can lead to an unhealthy, like an obsessional relationship with food, and that's just never good. And as you quite rightly just said, if you've got a demanding job and kids and all these other things, like, are you really going to spend your time weighing out your food, like writing down or tracking everything you're eating? Like, there's not enough hours in the day. It's just too stressful. So in summary, I think it can work for some people, but for the majority, I probably wouldn't recommend it.
No.
Yeah. Have you guys ever tried it out of interest?
I have, only because, and again, it's interesting that you said about your brother as well, doing intermittent fasting. So when I was in the fitness industry and in my early 20s, I tried all these different things, because you kind of actually, if I'm talking to clients about it, or if they're asking about it, it's good to actually get yourself in that situation of going, actually, what does it feel like to you know, not eat anything from literally from 7 p.m. at night all the way out till, you know, midday the next day. You know, if I don't have breakfast and all I consume is water throughout that time, what does that actually mean to me? And actually, how do I feel about that? And sometimes actually it worked quite well for me, but it doesn't always, like I said before, it doesn't suit everyone. And again, I was never really a kind of a breakfast person, unless it's like a bacon bap or something like that. I'm not really a breakfast person, you know. I'm not somebody who go, oh God, I'm really craving cereal right now, you know. It's like not like that.
That's me. Love a bit of cereal.
Do you know what? I'm not. I just think, do you know what? If I get it, fine. Do you know what I mean? It's there, then fair enough. But you know, most days, like when I go into work, because I get into work at like, you know, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm not really thinking about, oh God, I need to make a coffee, I need to do a cereal, whatever. I'm just literally get up, shower, out the door. I'm like, just get me to work and I'll deal with it later.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. You do you.
Exactly. But the thing is, that works for me, and some other people, they'll feel awful by doing that. You know, they'd feel like crap.
Exactly. I think it's a bit of trial and error as well. Like, fair enough, if you want to have a go and see how it feels doing like the intermittent fasting or whatever, then go for it. And you can probably gauge quite quickly whether it's for you or not. But I've said to Johnny and before that there's no point forcing yourself to eat breakfast if you don't want it. Like, there's no point. Or even snacks as well. Like, some people are more like 3 meals a day kind of people, and other people like to have snacks in between. Like, it's completely up to the individual. So yeah, there's no one size fits all, which I'll probably say like a million times.
I love that.
It's true.
Yeah.
If I didn't have breakfast, I wouldn't function personally.
Yeah, I'm the same. Needed.
But I have to get up. So, like this morning, for example, I had a client at 6:15. So I was up at 5:30 to get ready. Don't take me long to get ready. And then sit down, have breakfast, and then I know I've got fuel. I know I'm using it, but if I go out without breakfast, I feel awful.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just doing what works best for you.
Yeah. Everyone's
and also,
different.
you do have a very, very active lifestyle, so
you need it.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. In terms of calorie counting as well, like, I think people forget that not all calories are created equally. So I think a really good example is with sweet corn. So say you have 100 calories of sweet corn. If you are looking in the toilet the next day, I'm pretty sure a large percentage of that would come out the other side. So you're not absorbing all the calories. Whereas if you grind down the sweet corn and make like a corn tortilla, then you will absorb all of those calories. So so there's like 100 calories in the corn tortilla, you'd absorb all of those, but with the sweet corn, you'd get rid of it. So I think
everyone that's listening, when you've had sweet corn, have a look through your legs.
Have a look behind you.
Well, you can if you want, but
Oh, mate, I'm going to eat sweet corn again.
That's a good tip, though, because the thing is that, you know, I mean, I think we could all agree there's probably, you know, that is true. It's because, you know, you will lose a lot of those nutrients out of where actually, you know, it's not broken down in your stomach properly. So actually trying to, you know, whether you blitz it or whether you kind of mash it down or whatever to try and make sure it is consumed, then that's a good way of doing it. So
yeah, exactly.
Love it.
Good.
Anybody else got any more questions?
I'm out of questions, but I'm sure there's plenty more.
Well, no, it's not even a question. It's more just an observation. I started watching the Zac Efron documentary.
Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't actually watched it, but I've heard about it.
I was just watching the first one yesterday. I only watched half of it, but he's basically on a mission to find like eco-sustainable, and it's not just like energy, it could be food, diets, anything like that. And he's going around with this guy who's all about superfoods. He's like the guru of superfoods. He wrote a book about it and everything. Okay. Why the face? Super, I don't know. So I'm complete novice about all this stuff. I don't really know too much about it. But what is that, and why is he on a mission to find all these different places with superfoods? I don't know, but I'll be interested to find out. But what is superfoods, for example? Give us an example.
Well, I don't personally believe in superfoods. There's no superfood that's going to give you like the elixir of life or make you live 100 years or whatever. I think at one point
you're invincible.
Like, I think at one point it was like blueberries and stuff like that, and yeah, they're good for you, and they've got loads of vitamins that will be good for your health. But I think it's just about your overall diet that you should be concerned about, not like particular foods. Like, I don't think there's any food that should be kind of put on a pedestal.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff he was eating that they were cooking looked amazing. Looked amazing, but I just didn't really get it. I didn't really get what the whole thing was about.
Did you go to Delicious Ella's deli or something?
I don't know. I watched the one in London at first. I skipped like quite a few, but I don't know. I need to watch it properly, really.
Okay. Yeah.
But like, for example, he went to like the top of a rooftop in London somewhere, and they were eating honey fresh from like beehives and stuff like that. And they were talking about like it was the most amazing thing in the world and it's the best thing for you. I was like, okay, it's just honey. I know it's fresh honey, but it's just honey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't believe in the whole superfood thing.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, because if you can imagine, people be like, oh my god, this is the stuff I need to eat, and then they'll eat like gallons of it or whatever that particular food is. And I think it's just giving out the same messages like the Game Changers, like Zac Efron, who's a massive star, is going out, and now all of a sudden he's doing it. Everyone else is going to want to do it off the back of that. I don't know, but yeah, exactly. And I think that's why people get so confused.
Yeah, it is confusing. Like for someone who doesn't know too much about all the details, like, I get confused about it. I'm just like, I'll just stick to what I know. It works for me, and that's it. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
But that's the best way to be, though, isn't it? You know, you've got to make your own mind up of it, and and not just try not to be that sheep of going, actually, I'm going to follow this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to, it's whatever. Like Holly said, it's whatever works for you. It's not one shoe fits all. It's kind of a you need to see what is out there. And then there's a lot of foods that are out there. You try a plant-based diet or try some plant-based meals, even just introducing those types of meals into your diet, and you could be like, actually, this stuff's actually really nice.
I mean, you can get some. I mean, my brother's vegan, so, and since lockdown we've all been living together, so we've been having a lot more vegan foods, and it is really, really delicious. But it's made me realize that it's not for me. I know that I feel better and my skin's better and XYZ is better when I have a little bit of fish and eggs and all those kind of things in my diet, and that works well for me. I think people do really need to be careful when they adopt a vegan diet, because you do miss out on stuff that you can't get, that you get from animal-based products like B12, which is like a really essential vitamin that you can only get from animal products. So you have to make sure you're supplementing. So yeah, I think if you do make that leap, you have to be so careful and speak to a nutritionist and that kind of thing.
One thing actually it's made me think of it now is, what about like intolerances? So people that, if you do like intolerance testing or that type of thing, where you eat certain foods and you feel like really bloated or really sluggish after eating certain foods, and sometimes you might say actually it might be because of, like, people will have like gluten-free, for example, where they feel that way after eating a lot of wheat or barley or kind of that type of thing. But sometimes even if you try and avoid that, you still get that kind of bloated feeling, or even sometimes, myself, I'd feel that even though I don't necessarily have any intolerances, but I'll feel like that. But why is that?
There can be loads of different reasons why you might get bloating or whatever, and I think sometimes bloating isn't actually that bad. Like some foods like broccoli and cauliflower, for example, they're very I think they're called cruciferous foods. They're so high in fiber and they will cause a bit of natural bloating, and that's not actually a really bad thing. It's just a natural kind of, I don't know, it just happens when you eat those kind of foods. Obviously if it's painful, it might be good to kind of monitor it. But yeah, I think people have just become so highly sensitive to these kind of things. And things like gluten has been wrongly demonized. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, obviously if you're celiac, then of course avoid it, but I think, I don't know if it's necessarily something that people should be worried about. I know that I think it's about 1 in 3 people are lactose intolerant, so any kind of like dairy. So that is probably something to be a bit wary of. Like, I know people that can't eat yogurt, for example, because they'll be like painfully bloated, or like pregnant kind of bloated. So that's an obvious indicator that that's not working for them. But yeah, so when you've experienced bloating, has that been after a certain food, or is it just random?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it's funny you say about the dairy stuff, because actually sometimes if I eat too much ice cream, just sat there watching a film, just eat a tub of ice cream, I feel really bloated. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I feel super fat after eating a whole tub of ice cream. But anyway,
wonders will never know, will they?
Yeah, it's just a strange thing, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like dairy, and also as well, my girlfriend is celiac, so like with like she has to have gluten-free stuff.
Yeah.
So again, I'm having a lot of that, and sometimes because I'm eating a lot of that, I kind of feel like my body is a bit sensitive to sometimes I'm still eating wheat because I still feel like I don't want to just completely skip it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is quite sensitive to it.
Yeah,
And
often
again,
it's not actually the gluten that causes the sensitivity. It's like the way it's processed. So some breads have got lots of additives and stuff in them which we didn't even know about. It's not obvious, and that's what causes the insensitivity, not necessarily the gluten itself. I don't really know where this whole gluten demonizing came from, because yeah, it seems to be quite prevalent. But yeah, it's interesting. And also in terms of bloating, there are other like non-nutritional factors at play there. So stress can sometimes cause it. I'm sure you've heard of IBS. That's quite a stress-related illness, I suppose. And other factors as well, like lack of sleep, again, hormones, time of the month, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's really difficult to kind of pinpoint certain things. But I definitely recommend like monitoring how you're feeling. And if you do get painful bloating on a regular basis, and think, okay, what am I eating here that's not really agreeing with me? And kind of keep a bit of a diary or something.
Yeah. Good 100%. Good advice. Excellent.
Cool.
I think that was really, really good. And Holly, thank you so much for coming on and clearing up some of those questions that we had as well. I think there's, like I say, it's not a massive thing. We don't need to make all these drastic changes and things like that to try and, if you feel that you want to feel better, or you want to try and lose weight or whatever, it's not just jumping on the scale and doing all that. It's how you feel inside, and also not making those big changes as well. So again, Holly, thank you so much. And again, obviously this second season, this has kicked off the first episode of the second season, where we're going to bring on some other guests as well. We've got a few more booked on for the next few weeks, which we're super excited about, talking about various different topics, but listen on to those. So again, Holly, we'll put your socials at the bottom of all of our posts on Instagram, onto Facebook, and also this will be going on to YouTube as well. So yeah. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank
you, guys.
Later.
Thank you for listening. Thank you to Holly for coming on to the show. Each and every week we'll be having another guest on the show, so please stay tuned. Thanks again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you next week. Take care.